Hello guys, ni hao ma, genki desu ka, annyeong. So guys, I try to greet you in more than one language, or I think I use Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. To be honest, I don't know how to greet people in more languages, but today I have a sample for you on IELTS Task 1 diagram. And in this case, we have the water cycle. The first step is look at the diagram and try to figure out how many stages you can see. And in this case, we have the first stage, evaporation. Water evaporates. Condensation. Water condenses to form clouds. Third stage is precipitation, when rain starts to fall, or snow. The fourth step is collection, when water is collected in more than one channel, with either above or underground. So you can quickly summarize the 4 steps that you have on this diagram. In the introduction, you can use some of the information, or you can paraphrase the question, or if you understand, you can use your own words. An example is, the diagram illustrates, you can use this sentence in another diagram. Any sentence in red you can reuse. So the diagram illustrates how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the air, condenses into rain or snow in clouds, and falls again to the surface as precipitation. So this is an introduction that you can use on this type of diagram. In the first body paragraph, I'm going to talk about the first 3 stages, and I'm going to leave the 4th stage in a body paragraph 2. In the first sentence of body paragraph 1, you can introduce the number of stages you have. And in this case, we said, as outlined on the diagram, there are 4 main stages in the water cycle. Next, you can talk about each step individually. At the initial stage, or at the first stage, the sun heats up the water in the oceans. The sun heats up the water in the oceans. Notice the supplementary information here that you should use because it's important. Ocean contributes about 80% of the total water vapor in the air. So here I included that in this sentence. At the initial stage, the sun heats up the water in the oceans, which produce about 80% of the total water vapor. So the oceans produce 80% of the total water vapor. What does the sun do? Or the heat from the sun? The heat from the sun causes water to evaporate and rise into the atmosphere. Alright? Here I can say at the second stage, but I don't want to sound robotic, and I don't want to end up with a generic body paragraph. So don't try to use the same transitional style in every sentence. Water then cools and condenses to form clouds. So we use the word then. Water then cools and condenses to form clouds. You don't see the word cools, but it's a conclusion that you can come up with. But the basic word here is condensation. So the water condenses to form clouds. Following this, again, instead of saying at the third stage, I'm not saying you can't say that, but it's better to kind of have a variety of transitional phrases. Following this, water falls again to the surface as precipitation of rain or snow. Precipitation of rain or snow. In body paragraph 2, I'm going to talk about the 4th and final stage. At the 4th and final stage, the water falling on land, what happens to it? Collects in rivers and lakes. Rivers and lakes. Even if you don't see rivers there, it's safe to assume that it's either lakes or rivers or both. Or runs through ground and surface runoffs. So surface runoffs or the ground, soil, right? some of the water reaches the impervious layers of the ground. Some of the water gets to this level of ground and stays there. Notice that it doesn't run back to the ocean. However, where does most of the water go? It goes back to the ocean. So much of the water flows back into the oceans. Now, we're going to talk about this step here, because what happens to the water on its way back to the ocean? Some of it mixes up with salted water from the ocean. So on its way back to the ocean, water is mixed with salt water in the process of salt water intrusion before it finally reaches the ocean, where it will once more evaporate. Notice that this is an ongoing process. So because this is a continuous process, it doesn't end here. So guys, this is the final paragraph or report that you will end up with, and here we have 178 words. So you can play with this sample around. You can use some of the phrases where you see fit in your in other diagrams, but basically the first step that you always should remember is that try to summarize the number of stages or the stages that you see on the diagram that you have. Alright guys, so stay tuned for more lessons on my channel, and thank you so much for watching.